I invite you to close your eyes if it is comfortable for you to do so. As we take a moment now to acknowledge that presence, surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I invite you to take a deep breath and release it. And another breath, and you might notice the breath as it is through your nostrils and into your lungs, and we release it. And again, we breathe in and we release it. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. Of course, the truth is that wherever we go, we are walking on holy ground in the sense that we are always with that presence. It is one with us. And when we come together here, we make a point of acknowledging that presence, giving thanks, it is the light and life of Spirit. It blesses us, it connects us, it guides us. Beloved Spirit, we are open and receptive to your loving, healing presence. Breathing in and breathing out, we give thanks. We are ever grateful. Yes, for the blessings in life. And above that, we are grateful for this day, the gift of life, and the very presence of Spirit with which we are one. And so it is that we look forward to a day today in which we might find divine appointments, in which we might have an awareness of the beauty that is all around us, within us and in each other. We are grateful, and it is so. Amen. Beautiful song. Although I think if you had sung along with it, it might have added quite a lot. Well, good morning, everyone. It is a beautiful day. Anybody feel like stretching? We come here to stretch a little, don't we? My title for today is Unity's Advanced Teaching, ? And the reason for the question mark is, well, we'll get into that in a little bit. You see, that a while back, I was reminded of something out of the past. There had been a lecture at Unity Village by the chief metaphysician, the metaphysical teacher there. He was a man named Ed Rabel, Reverend Ed Rabel. I would doubt that anyone in this room. Anybody remember Ed? Yeah, okay. Well, there's a few of you. Ed was a kind of an unusual guy, and he was also a highly respected teacher. He was pretty much retired. I think when I went to ministerial school in 1988, I should probably say 1988 AD. It seems like it was so long ago, but I had gone to a number of his classes back. And they used to have a program called CEP. It was continuing education back at Unity Village. It was a wonderful program, and I took some classes from him back in the 80s. Anyway, like I said, he was a widely respected Unity teacher. So apparently he was teaching this class at Unity Village, and he had adjourned the class, and a few of the students came up to him at the conclusion, and one of them said, "Sir, we have all been studying Unity for quite some time, and we feel that we're ready for Unity's advanced teaching. And would you share with us Unity's advanced teaching?" And so evidently Ed paused for a moment. He invited them to sit down and take out their notebooks. And then he said, I don't know if any of you have your notebooks, but he said, "Be kind. Unity's advanced teaching is to be kind." And then he left the classroom. Really, be kind. Now, certainly being kind is a good thing, but Unity's advanced teaching, that's really where the question mark came for me. I have a lot of respect for Ed and his teaching, but I felt like we needed to include the question mark and look into this subject a little bit further together. When it comes to an advanced teaching in Unity, well, there is the principle of oneness, which is a profound concept for us, and it's infinitely deep. The power of prayer and medication. That too, I suppose, but of prayer and meditation is something that has deep roots in Unity. And I remember a Unity teacher way back when telling me that bringing the highest truth that we can to the challenge that we are currently facing is considered the advanced curriculum. Let me just say that one more time because I thought that was pretty good. Bringing the highest truth that we can to the challenge that we are currently facing is considered the advanced curriculum. Well, and at the same time, it seems to me that what Ed had to say was very important. Now, maybe part of it was in the context of the class that he was teaching. Maybe part of it was had to do with the person that he was talking to there, that this particular person, and he wanted to say something to. But I think one of the things that he was clearly doing was this. I suspect that the questioner was looking for something that would challenge his understanding, maybe something esoteric that he could chew on intellectually. And Ed took it out of the head and into the heart and into the realm of how we live our lives. And that certainly is an advanced teaching. One thing about being kind is that it is sometimes hard. I'm reminded of the story about an elderly lady who was clearly blind getting on a bus where all the seats were full, and nobody got up to offer her their seat. Finally, a man got up and, frowning at the others on the bus, he gave her his seat, and the bus pulled out from the stop. Later, this same man came home, and he was clearly downcast and a bit bruised. His wife asked him what happened, and he said, "Today I lost my job as a bus driver." You have to think about that. Kind of reminds me of a little thing that I heard, which was about a man who came home from work. He closed the door behind him and he said, "I'm home. What's for dinner?" And his wife said, "Nothing." And he said, "Well, that's what we had for dinner last night." And she said, "And tonight we're having leftovers." Anyway, on a more serious note, Jesus, who fed the hungry, who befriended the friendless, who healed the sick, told us the story of the Good Samaritan who was willing to be kind and generous with someone who was of a different faith, a stranger that he knew not at all, and yet who was by the side of the road, beaten apparently within an inch of his life. And yet he took him, cared for him, and made sure that he was cared for until he was well. Jesus encouraged us not only to love our neighbor as ourself, but to love our enemies. Yes, kindness is about love, and kindness can be hard. The 14th Dalai Lama said this about kindness: "This is my simple religion. There is no need for temples, no need for complicated philosophy. Our own brain, our own heart is our temple, and the philosophy is kindness." So clearly the Dalai Lama thought that kindness was advanced, and he also said we should act out of kindness whenever possible. It is always possible. I remember quite a few years ago, a woman in the congregation asked if she could speak with me, and so we made an appointment. She came to the office, and she told me something remarkable. Her son, who I knew, was in, I think he was in about junior high. Maybe he was a little bit younger. But he had had a drowning experience. He had essentially drowned, and they fished him out of the water unconscious, and blessedly, emergency measures brought him back, and he told his mom that he had had what we would call a near-death experience. And what he remembered from it was that he was surrounded by beautiful bubbles, and a voice said to him, "Be kind." Well, it seems like the universe, or those angels that were surrounding him, had a message for him that was important, and maybe it's a message that is of the greatest importance for all of us if we could but hear our angels a little more clearly. Over the past years, we've talked about the Random Acts of Kindness Day, something that apparently it started back in the 80s. I found a couple of different references for that. But according to the Foundation for Random Acts of Kindness, the day of celebration is going to be February 17th in 2026. I guess it's already gone by this year. There's also a World Kindness Day that is established by another group. I happen to notice this because Pam and I had our dog Lily into the vet's office because she's been quite ill. She's doing a lot better right now, thank you. But we brought her into the Prescott Animal Hospital, and there was a technician there who was helping us, who was really, I thought, the epitome of kindness to both our dog and to us. She could tell that we were in as much distress as the dog was. But anyway, they have one of these screens on an exam room there that's constantly cycling things. And in this case, one of the things that popped up was that World Kindness Day was coming up on November 13th of this year. So we've got February 17th, November 13th. I understand the two organizations are having a turf battle over which is the right day to be kind. Actually, that's not true. I just made that up. I'm sure that they are both delighted to have more than one Kindness Day. I imagine they would like to have 365 of them if that was possible. I think it would be unfortunate to see it as an occasional act that's located on any particular day. Seems to me that while acts of kindness are extremely important, I think we might take it a step further and endorse a consciousness of kindness that we are carrying with us all the time, and which is the starting point of many, many acts of kindness. The Buddha said, kindness should be the natural way of life, not the exception. Frankly, kindness is something that seems to be a bit in short supply these days. There's quite a lot of meanness and negativity out there. It's nothing new. If we look at history, the human family is capable of a lot of it. And sometimes I think we are tempted to meet fear and anger with fear and anger. It's the way that our ego tends to work. We have a tendency to match the energy level of what is coming our way so that we can push back. But unfortunately, that accomplishes nothing except to lower the tide that floats all the boats. On the other hand, if we can respond to something that is fearful and angry with something that is kind and loving, then we are contributing our little part to raising the tide that lifts all the boats and has ripples that carry out to who knows how far they go and who they touch. I remember hearing a story about a church. I'd like to think it was a Unity church, but I really have no idea. And it was apparently this church was the object of a demonstration by some group over some issue. They were essentially being picketed. And the congregation of this church responded by bringing the demonstrators coffee and donuts. I can only imagine how that shifted the energy of that day. One of the little things that I learned from one of our dog sitters was that she carries with her, especially when she's traveling, she carries with her several $5 Starbucks gift cards. And when there is someone who is helpful, or maybe somebody who just simply seems to be overlooked, she would give them one of these cards. Now, I've tried this, and while a $5 Starbucks gift card may seem like no big deal, it is quite amazing to see someone's reaction at receiving something like a little thing that just maybe all it is just being noticed, being acknowledged. Now, we know that it's not, if we do an act of kindness, it's not for us to pay much attention at all to the response of that person. That's not our department. Ours is to simply do the giving of the act of kindness. In fact, if we can do it anonymously, that's really the highest. But I must say that it's kind of remarkable to see the look on somebody's face when you give them a little something like a gift card to acknowledge that you appreciate them. By the way, $5 Starbucks gift cards are hard to find in the stores, but you can get them online. I was thinking that maybe a 33 flavors would be might be better. So what might be involved in a consciousness of kindness? Well, it is more than just rewinding a VHS tape. You remember the stickers from the video rental place? Be kind and rewind. That's what they used to say on the tapes. And maybe as we're talking about it here this morning, something comes to mind for you where you were the recipient of an act of kindness, something that has stayed with you. I think one thing we can do that would help support that consciousness of kindness would be to step back from passing unkind judgments. It is so easy for us to judge by appearances, the way someone looks or acts, when in fact we know so little about what is going on for them and the difficulties that they face in life and who they are as a human being, who they are as a spiritual being for that matter. And it's very tempting for us to make up stories about very little information that turn out to be really erroneous. I remember once when I was driving home from church on Montezuma in the evening, and there was a car that went by me going at least 20 miles over the speed limit. They kind of careened past me, and I quickly relegated them to the community of the irresponsible and ignorant until I turned the corner and saw the car parked at the entrance to the emergency room at the hospital. We generally know so little about others and what's going on for them. But what we do know is that even though the camouflage might be really good, ultimately they are an expression of the divine and they are one with us in spirit. I think another thing that can be a part of a consciousness of kindness is forgiveness. And this is important in being kind to ourselves as well as to others. And by the way, the Buddha says the first rule of kindness is to be kind to yourself. Anyway, I think it's important to be kind to ourselves as well as others. Often we hold others and ourselves as guilty of something that was done or never done or should have been done. It's important to let the person off the hook and remind ourselves that they were acting or failing to act based on the consciousness that they could bring to the situation at the time. We are all evolving. We are all perfect at the level of who we are as a spiritual being, but at the level of humanity, none of us is, and we all make mistakes. So I think that forgiving ourselves and others is one important way that we can be kind. One of the gifts of being in ministry is that every week you have some spiritual idea that you get to focus on. And often it seems like the universe has some homework for you to do before Sunday rolls around. And I had an experience this last week with a family member of mine where I felt I got these texts. I'm not a fan of texting. Unless you're texting somebody an address or something, that's one thing. But something important, it's better to get them on the phone. Anyway, my brother, I guess I wasn't going to say that, but sent me some texts where I felt he was really judging me wrongly, and I took exception to it. And in my head, I went through several versions of the text that I was going to send back to him. But I knew that there was something in this, plus the fact that I knew I had to talk about kindness this week. So I decided to pause on this and give it some reflection and prayer time. And eventually, with a little help from my friends, I was able to come from a place that was really more about love than it was about being right. And it made a big difference, a really big difference. And the issue of forgiving ourselves, as I said, is an important one. It's important to recognize that forgiving others and forgiving ourselves is really, it's two sides of the same coin, and one needs the other. Being kind to others and ourselves we're all forgiven by the same love and light of Spirit. And we can all bring a little of that love and light into the world. I thought, I don't know if this is going to really be feasible, but I thought somebody might want to share a story about a kindness story. Now, there are a couple of rules here. One is that we need to be relatively concise. The other is I'd like it to be, if you have something that you'd like to share, something that happened to you and not something that you did, just because I think this is really where we want our focus to be today. So, you got one? So we're going to hold on and we'll get you a microphone.
Okay, I have 2 credit cards, and one I use most of the time. And I was at Fry's shopping, and then I was putting my groceries in the trunk of my car when this person came running out, and they were an employee of the grocery store, and they said, "What is your name?" And I said, Susan Baxter. And she had my other credit card in her hand. And I said, "Where did you find it?" She said it was on the floor. The fact that she came out to look for me to give me back my other credit card, I thought, how wonderful. And I've tried to share that story with some of the people in the store that worked there and how grateful I was.
Great, thanks for sharing. And anybody else have a? Okay, we're going to have to take a moment to hike back here. Everybody can just relax for a moment here.
Well, I just wanted to say that I've recently become, dependent on scooters and things in the store in the last 6 months. But so many people have been so kind. They see me on the scooter and they can't wait to help me. Can I help you get something? And there was a man, I came out of Walmart yesterday or day before, and there was a man sitting in his pickup truck. And I was, riding out to the back of my car to load my groceries and stuff. And he came running over and he said, I didn't get the beginning of what he said, but I just want to help you. And people do that all the time in this town. I am amazed at how kind the people are in Prescott. Now, I've lived in California, I've lived in lots of big cities, Oklahoma City, and I just love it here because the energy is so good and the people that I've met. Even when I first came here and I was not, crippled or anything, but I would have conversations with people on the sidewalk, in the grocery stores, and it's just that wonderful energy that I think is here in Prescott, and I'm just so happy to be here today.
Well, thank you. Well, we know that there's a lot of meanness and negativity out there. I don't need both microphones. But clearly there's a lot of kindness as well, and it sounds like the grocery store is a good place to encounter it. Well, Richard used to give us homework to do, as many of you will recall, and I think it's a good idea. So I'm going to suggest some homework for all of us this week, and that is to do one act of kindness each day. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Maybe it's just a phone call. But whatever it might be, try one act of kindness a day for the course of this week. And I think I'll give you a little warning in advance. Sometimes this takes a kind of a nudge. We have to nudge ourselves to actually take that step because it's kind of easy to just sit back and watch the world go by. But the truth of the matter is that if we are willing to take that step, however small it may seem to be, we can do so in the assurance that it's making a difference for somebody. We don't have to judge how they respond or how they react. It's just our part to take that step, and let's see how things feel a week from now after 7 days of just doing one kind act a day. Let's take this into prayer here for a moment. Beloved Spirit, we choose to share the light that shines within us, not to hide it. We choose to see the light in others. This light is your light. It shines in all of us. And so we look forward to a week in which we might joyfully share a little bit of that light with each other. Maybe even this morning we might find the opportunity to do so. We give thanks. We are open and receptive to your guidance. If there is a certain kind act that is before us, and we give thanks for that guidance. And so it is. Amen.